to My Heart Life Coaching presents the Door to Expansion webcast. Your host, Mar Anthony Hubbard. Co-host, Stephanie Hollins Passmore. Prepare your ears to listen and your heart to receive. As you take in words that change lives, renew hearts, and open minds.
Entrepreneurship is something that cannot be taught. They hate when I say that, but I really stand by that. Okay, by show of hands, how many people in here are entrepreneurs? How many people here that know the definition of what it means to be an entrepreneur? Okay, so some hands went down. So how are you an entrepreneur if you don't know what it means to be an entrepreneur? At that point, you have to ask yourself, are you really an entrepreneur? Or are you just trying to start and be something that you weren't meant to be? Right now, in today's society, entrepreneurship is glorified, right? Everybody on social media is an entrepreneur, or they think they are, right? So they ask themselves what I call perception questions, right? The perception of what it means to be an entrepreneur. They'll ask themselves, do I want to work for someone else my whole life, or do I want to work for myself? Yes, I want to work for myself. They'll ask themselves if they want to make their own schedule, right? We're all going to say yes to that. We want to make our own schedule. They're going to ask themselves if they want to live a life that they don't need a break from, right? We're all going to say yes to that. But I like to ask what I call reality questions. And these are the realities that also come with entrepreneurship. Like, do you want to work 24 hours a day? Or do you want to work 8 hours a day? Are you willing to take every last dime in your bank account and risk losing it? You have to also say yes to those questions as well, because that's the reality of being an entrepreneur. We can't just take the perception of something and not take the reality. So people hate.
All right. So, welcome to today's show. How's everybody doing?
Good, amazing. Blessed.
Amazing. Man, that's some good words right there. It's better than other times when people be like, I'm all right, I'm doing. All right, so we're gonna kick today's show off. As you see on the title right there, this is gonna be our last part of the military transition series, entrepreneurship and authenticity. And we have today with us Miss Andrella Pusha. I got it right, hopefully this time.
You did?
All right. So this is before I get into the introduction, because I am gonna read that what you pinned on your page about your biography, and I'm gonna go over that in a minute. Yeah,
Did he just do this? Did he do this?
Yeah.
Your little, but
hey, I'm and the only reason I did like that because whenever I started reading it, I was just impressed with it. So that's why I did like that. Now it wasn't just be like, yeah.
Then say that then.
I don't mind the air quotes, but the little part is like, it's not little, and there's some more stuff on there since then. So maybe I need to do an update.
Well, the reason I say it's little is because one, my eyes are bad, and I'm sitting up here trying to look at it. Because, like you said, I know it's a whole bunch more to this right here. This right here, really looking at this, whenever I start reading it, we're gonna start at 9 years ago. So that's why.
Let's just do this, Mar Anthony, and let's Miss Andrella Pusha give her own introductory.
No.
He can read it.
I'm doing that. Okay. And then I'll just let her add in the extra stuff that she says she has now. So before we get started, I am Mar Anthony Hubbard. I am the founder and owner of Speak to My Heart Life Coaching. And I have my co-host here, Miss Stephanie House Passmore. I'll let you introduce yourself.
Stephanie Hollins Passmore, the co-host, the little co-host, uh, marriage and
Wow.
family therapist, licensed mental health counselor, and just the little co-host. So
So this type of show we finna have today.
look, you set the tone, okay?
All right, all right. So here we go. Miss Andrella Pusha. Now, she is our returning guest, but
Mhm.
here's her bio. 9 years ago, she became a mother. 3 years ago, she retired from 20 years of naval service as one of the first few African American nuclear engineer females to reach the rank of Chief Petty Officer, E7, in history. 2 years ago, almost, she drove her family from Virginia to South Carolina in a U-Haul to change her environment and reset her life. 1 year ago, she switched gears and walked into her passion on purpose, loaded with faith. And she says, so maybe she ran into it. And then 1 month ago, she declared that she would launch a magazine to connect small businesses to homeowners in an effort to embrace true community living. So, Miss Andrella Pusha, the floor is yours.
Okay, so to update the little bio, right? Um, all those are a year ago, right? So now it's been 10 years. My daughter's 10. Um, I retired 4 years ago this summer. 3 years we've been here. And I did not launch the magazine, but I did um, launch a Faces of Somerville website that does the exact same thing, where it actually gives the community members to meet one another, one smiling face at a time. Um, Last year, I was still kind of, I was doing well in real estate. Last year, I got the Realtor Distinction Award, Rising Star, which is pretty huge. I think there might have been 13 people out of 7,500 that received that award last year. Um, what else? What else? That's probably the big stuff. That's probably the big stuff. The big stuff.
It definitely ain't no small. It definitely ain't no small stuff.
So, like I said, that's why I put it in air quotes. That's the small thing because I know it's a lot more stuff, and that's what we're gonna get into today with this entrepreneurship thing right here.
Okay.
And that's the reason why I really want to emphasize on what it was, uh, and on what it was, and the reason why we have her on the show today, uh, because me and you, Stephanie, we are both entrepreneurs. So I mean, we can give our little our testimony on the reason why we became entrepreneurs. But you know what? Just like during the video, what is an entrepreneur? Well, how would y'all define what an entrepreneur is?
I think an entrepreneur has to be a dream believer. It
Mm.
has to be somebody that is totally invested in themselves, willing to work 24/7. If you can't work an 8-hour job, you're not ready to be an entrepreneur. You are a business of one until you can get some employees, right? We're not talking about, without going into the differences between small business, large business, and solopreneur world, but you have to be willing to give your entire all 24/7, your finances, your energy, your humility. You got to have discipline in order to create a viable business that hopefully doesn't die when you die.
Oh, that's a great one right there. Because I would think most people want to become entrepreneurs for that generational wealth type thing. So I can pass this on down. So I like that.
So if we take a look at SBA numbers years ago, most small businesses would fail because of funding, right?
Mm.
Nowadays, most of them fail because of lack of structure. We don't have a problem of access to capital. We have a problem of lack of structure, right? Everybody goes into business because they want to solve a problem. And there's a lot of dreamers, there's a lot of believers, but how many people actually set up something that doesn't die when they die? Or don't take the time to embed into their family members and their loved ones what does it mean to keep the business in operation when they pass? Because sometimes we're out here creating these big businesses that our children don't want anything to do with. And so the idea of generational wealth is not just about the dollars, it actually starts at home. It's thought principles, it's discipline, It's understanding hierarchy. It's understanding legacy. It's never just about a dollar. For the people that have jumped on that term nowadays of generational wealth, and they just think, oh, I'm gonna make some money. Um, Sad to say, some of those people, when they're long gone, other people will realize that they didn't teach generational wealth because it definitely died when they died.
But is that the initial mindset though? It's like some of us are just like wanting to move ourselves out of corporate, wanting to just
Right.
be our own boss. Like we're just looking at the initial stages. A lot of us haven't created a thought process beyond that.
Yep. And I think that's where sometimes where businesses struggle. You know, right now we're in the information age, right? And so people are really addicted to buying information. They're buying information, they're not realizing that the hustle part comes separate, right? Success is always sold separately. But like how many people say I'm a start a business to solve a problem and then think about the next 3 to 5 years worth of business and what that should look like. So, the thing that I typically tell a lot of my clients, be it business clients or just my peers even, those are the things that's going to feed you. Entrepreneurship can be very draining. It can be tiring. It could be 3 o'clock in the morning. I got to figure out this problem because I need this issue resolved. Or calling on a friend and say, hey, am I tripping because I can't solve this? I think we all need, understand the importance of having that support team. But how many people get into business realizing that it's going to take way more than it would on somebody's job? So understanding why you go in, right? And a lot of times, like you said, Stephanie, it's the right now resolution because mentally we need a space to go. We see the holes, we see the gaps, we know how we can fill it, and we step in to solve those things. But then when I'm tired, like for me, I'm retired military, right? So I know that I have a financial safety net that some of my peers might not. But when I'm tired, if I can look at my 3-year goals in my business, that's going to keep me going. For some people, they don't have a 3-year goal. So when they get tired, there's no boss to say, oh, no, you got to get up, chop, chop,
Mhm.
chop. It's stuff to do. So I agree with you, Stephanie. It's not always about, you know, 50 years after I'm gone, I'm creating something now that's going to last, creating that machine. But it's about how do I solve the problems and then give it my all in order to make it work.
Yeah.
So my question would, whenever we start talking about passing it down, and this is on for both of y'all, the business that y'all start, is it something that probably you need to talk to the family about before? And
Mhm.
because so like from I'll take for instance mine. For me, everybody in my family, they're not, they're I wouldn't think that they're a people person like me. The way my mind think, I think about fixing people or helping people fix themselves more than anything. And I understand that the rest of my family don't think like that. So for me, once I'm done, this will be the end of this business unless I like you mentioned, I got other people involved in everything. Then yes, that would happen. But there are some companies out here. I mean, we'll look at little major corporations that started off in the garage somewhere, and that's just one of them things to keep going down. Funeral homes, for example. Somebody going there start a funeral home, and then next thing you know, it's just passed down, you know, to the son, the daughter, or whomever, to a family member. So that's where the question came from. Is it something before I start this business? Should I consult other people to say, hey, is this some is this a legacy that you will continue?
Um, I would say, me personally, would I consult with them? No, but I would definitely make it a part. And it's funny that you said funeral business because my family next year hits 100 years in the funeral business,
Mm,
and we
Mm.
haven't talked about that, right? My grandmother's father started a funeral home in 1923.
wow.
My grandmother amassed wealth because back then funeral directors was one of the few things that Black folks could do as a business, right? And so she would acquire homes because people didn't have insurance. And so when they didn't have insurance, they would put their properties up. When my and I'm getting real transparent here. So then I'm thinking about, I shared this on my Facebook page, but I'm gonna give it out there, right? This is what it's about. Um, when my grandmother died, there was 53 pieces of property in her estate. 53, right? But my father never learned the family business. So what happens? We all study generational wealth, right? So what happens when the next generation doesn't know what to do with it?
It's
It gets
lost.
lost. It's lost. And so the next generation down, we end up with people like me that have these pictures of possibility, but also painful experiences that we can turn into fuel for. I got to make sure I teach my children about what to do. Even if they don't want to do the business, they need to understand what's possible for their own lives, right? So, did I consult with my children and tell them what I wanted to do? No, no. But I remember having an accountant at one time that said, do you know why we put our children in martial arts as kids? He said, put your kids in martial arts because they learn discipline. They learn discipline at a very young age. And he said, in the summertime, have your kids work in the family business. Even if it's nothing big, you embed the power of legacy in them at an early age. He was like, I don't want to do this kind of work. But my grandfather started doing this a long time ago, and I wouldn't dare let the family business die. And so realizing that wealth is just a part of what we do versus a part of what we hope we can do, I think being able to put our families involved is key. Would I ask them? No. But would I make them a part? Absolutely.
I haven't consulted with my family. I just kind of did it, and and I have kids who graduated from college, and I have one son who is like a crisis responder, so he's in the mental health field, and hopefully one day he'll do his master's and do his clinical practice, and would want to like become like a provider for the business. And my daughter is taking her classes, and I'm even like hiring my son for the fall to like be my virtual assistant and to take calls and do all of that stuff for me. So this is something I'm definitely wanting to pass down and that they are open to taking on. So yeah.
That's awesome. Now, I got a quick question for you guys because I do want to know. Does it necessarily have to mean that you got to pass down the business? Right? When I think about a will, I think about a will as the final love letter to your family,
Mm.
right? And so, from a business perspective, even if the family, like let's say, the family didn't want to be involved or they weren't going to go down that same path, we can still use what we create in those businesses to create something that still provides for them, right? So, from a generational wealth perspective, the way people talk about it on social media, I think, is a little blinded in some perspectives, right? So thinking outside the box is maybe it doesn't have to be passed down in that entire business. What can I do with this business income to create financial stability, right? Because that's really typically what people want a lot of times, that financial stability for their family, past insurance policies, or how to use those insurance policies to create a machine that continues to feed them long after they're gone. So that's why I say generational wealth is it starts in the mind. It starts and totally ends in the mind, but it starts in the home, not in our businesses.
I can get with that. So since you since you mentioned about the mind, so do you think people are born or built with the entrepreneurship mind? Or so can I teach entrepreneurship?
Can you teach a hustle?
You can teach
Can
a
you teach
hustle,
hustle?
but and I don't want to get ahead of myself because we're gonna I got another video that I'm gonna show and you'll see where that question come from as far as can you teach somebody about entrepreneurship. And and like you said, yes, I can teach you how to hustle. You know, you think about it. If a kid, we would say back in the day, whenever we used to sell lemonade and stuff at the lemonade stands. I can teach you how to do that, but if you don't have that mindset, are you going to be effective at it?
Um, I don't think I think you can teach entrepreneurship, but there's something in you that you have to either have or you don't have, or develop it.
Okay.
Or I think it's a fire that can be developed. Sometimes people aren't born with it, but they've seen so many pictures of possibility. Like, I went to the military for 20 years. If you had told me when I joined the military I was going to stay in for 20 years, I'd have said, get out of here. I'm not. I'm doing my 6 years. I'm leaving. If you would have told me that being a nuclear engineer for so long would serve me, I'd have said, nah, like they smart. They're super smart. We're super smart, but I don't think like an engineer. I totally do. And I see how it serves my businesses, right? Skill sets are something you can learn. Fire, passion is something you either have to have or you don't have. And a lot of times, like if you look at the people that are um, self-made, a lot of them learned that because they needed a change. So enough of, I like people like to say, "Oh, I'm a product of my environment," and they think of the bad stuff. Well, you got to take the good with the bad, right? Um, or the good with the not so feel good. And at the end of the day, the question is always, how does this serve me? Right? My life experiences with my family, not even my personal, but like my grandmother walking through houses and watching blueprints and her teaching me how to read things to scale and knowing that last week a wall wasn't up. But this week the wall is up, and I'm talking to the contractors and I'm talking to those folks. As a 9-year little girl, those totally made me see what was possible. Going with her to go collect rent and my classmates opened the door. It's like, wow, Black folks can do some stuff. Like they can own some stuff. You know, hanging out to the gas station. It was funny. I was telling somebody the other day, my grandmother owned a gas station when I was a little girl, right? She had a gas station, a motel, a restaurant. She had a bunch of stuff. She had her father's funeral home, but I used to count a lot of cash. Like they would keep me entertained as a kid at the gas station by counting a lot of cash to keep me occupied and reading the newspaper. So I probably, even if I didn't want to be a nerd, I probably would have been a nerd because that's what they did. So they probably did that to me, right? But then what I didn't know is that my grandfather and his 3 friends had a bank. I didn't realize that until I got older. Now, both of my grandparents have long died, but like when I looked at my life as an adult and I started thinking about what is it that I want to do, how big can I see, how big can I dream, I had pictures of what was possible. I think a lot of people get stumped because they can't see past the front door. When you can't see you and anything past your front door, everything about what you need in order to propel, you got to get past fear. You got to, all of those things get stumped because you don't think it's possible.
Mhm.
So that's going to lead to this question right here. What are some traits of an effective entrepreneur?
Hmm. I would say communication, discipline, insight, dedication, tirelessness, believing in yourself, values, morals. You got to be in it for something bigger than yourself. So
Oh,
some amount of servitude,
so you
right?
said just because you don't want to work for somebody and you're gonna start your own business, that just ain't gonna help. That ain't gonna work out for you.
Oh, no, 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 no. Don't believe the memes you see on social media.
Well,
Like it's
that may launch you, but that's not going to hold and maintain you, though.
right. Right.
Because,
When the
because
dollars slow down.
because just like in the video, that's the mindset. I'm not trying to work for nobody. I'm gonna go open my own business up. But
Listen, I remember going
Entrepreneurship is much harder than sitting on somebody's 9 to 5, like
exactly. I
a
remember going
sister's
out.
tied.
I remember going out to sea one time, Stephanie, and I think I might have been up for about 2 days, just under 2 days, working, troubleshooting some stuff. And where I worked at was underneath the water line in the bottom. Some of the equipment, if it goes down, everything goes to HEW, you know what, right? And so it's always a stress to keep the equipment running. And after that, like I remember sleeping through a lot of stuff that day. And in the military, your paycheck is the same if you go on vacation and you don't go to work that week, or if you work 80 hours that week, the pay is always the same. So there's a sense of stability coming from the W 2 world that in the entrepreneurship world, people don't really talk about. Because people think, oh, I go this hard for an employer, right? I could just work that hard for myself. Well, guess what? When you're tired, there's nobody to wake you up. There's nobody you got to check in with and say, hey, we need you. You know, we need you on the line. We need you to do whatever. It's just you. And there's nothing that says that a dollar has to come just because you care about the business that you have. Customers just don't come pay you just because you cool. That's not how it works.
That's one of the things that I always tell my people is like, you know what? Most people, whenever they start a business up, they're doing it because of passion. And I applaud you whenever you do it off passion. But at the same time, whenever that bill comes, you can't write passion on the bill and hopefully it's gonna get paid. So you're gonna have to put the work in. And like you mentioned, just because yeah, you putting your you putting your work in for somebody else for 8 hours, but just like in the video, are you willing to do it for 24 hours? What is your threshold, and how far are you gonna go to make sure it's successful? Because it, just like how you mentioned some of them numbers in there as from the Small Business Administration, most people gonna stop because if they don't see a profit, if they not turning a profit, hey, I'm done, I'm gone. And
They're either done or they start wavering on integrity in their business and they stop caring about their clients.
and whenever you get to that point right there, me personally, you probably do need to go ahead and shut it down.
Go get a
Because
job. Get a
yeah,
job.
go get a job and feel good about yourself and go and get that comfort back into you.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I mean, we can look at stores today, and one of the things that you mentioned, and you call them small businesses. So for me, I try not to use the word small business. I always try to use the word up and coming businesses, because you know you was talking about whenever before we got on here, we was talking about the magic of thinking big. That book, and
Mhm.
whenever people use the word small business, sometimes I wonder if they just continue to use that word because hey, I only have so many employees. I only have this right here. But are you really kind of limiting yourself whenever you say a small business?
So let me preface. I'm a nerd, right? So, um, and some of the businesses that I deal with, they might be looking at some HUD dollars, some government dollars. So when I say that, I'm not thinking of little business. I'm
Right.
thinking of small business by definition, large business by definition, or the solopreneur. A lot of people don't realize they don't have a business. They don't have a business. Business means you can walk away and it keeps going without you.
Mm.
Like, let's just be real, right? If you have to work, if you can't take time off, is it a business? That's
No,
hard, right?
it's
That's hard to define that. It's hard to define that. But then you
I
got to
don't
give
think I got a
yourself
business.
you got to give yourself some grace too, right? Because when you're looking at the different types of business, that's why I say small business, large business, solopreneurs. Solopreneurs are can be hyper successful, but you might not have it to where you can walk away and take a week off and then the income continues to go, right? So part of being in business is also you got to be willing to give yourself some grace sometimes. And that's hard because hustle and grace don't seem to live on the same street. Sometimes you got to bend the corner and go tap on Grace's door and say, "Girl, listen, I'm tired. Did I not do some stuff right?" No, 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 I did. I did. But just be patient because seasons come in business. Seasons definitely do come. And every day is not a harvest season. But social media have people thinking it is.
well, we're not gonna say social media is. We're gonna put the people who's behind that because hey, you know what? I post on that every day how good of a day I'm having. and I'm about ready to go crazy over here. My hair to fell out. Oh, I ain't got none. But you know what? I mean, but that's how social media is. I'm popping bottles at the club every night, but I ain't got no job.
But I ain't got no
And
job.
Mm.
but you know what? I'm not gonna tell nobody that this is somebody else's. I'm gonna go stand in front of this car right here and be like, "Hey, I'm fronting now. Look, y'all see this? Dang, I used to front. Boy, I went back, didn't I?"
Listen, I'm glad you put authenticity on this slide with entrepreneurship, because you got to be real with yourself. You definitely have to be real with yourself. I think sometimes people get confused, and that's part of why it does look so attractive, is because people buy marketing and they don't realize. Sometimes you'll see me post about if you're the product, the consumer, or the product, right? If you're the producer, the consumer, or the product. And sometimes people don't realize that they're buying hype.
Mm.
Psychologically, they're buying the hype when they see somebody's success. Because, like, attraction marketing, like, that's a real thing. And some people don't realize the lifestyle that they're showing you is not their real lifestyle. I think it was a girl out of Texas just got blasted by the car place. It was like she never bought a car here. She just comes here and takes pictures.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And it's like, people see those things, and for them, they see it sometimes, and I'm not going to say everybody, but sometimes people can see things as what's possible, and then they hold on to it. And because they don't hear the true side, right? They don't get that transparency, because it takes courage to get emotionally naked with people, right? Just as much as I put about the good stuff on there, I say, no, I was still the family member that some of my cousins said, you're not going to be anything in life. And then it's like, well, guess what? I definitely am, right?
Mm.
Because people need to understand, like, there's highs and lows in life, and you got to be able to see through some marketing, because good marketing will make you feel like everybody is winning in life, when in actuality, which is people first, and we are not winning every single day of our lives.
So I am going to try to play another video here, and this is gonna be from Mark Cuban here, and
Oh,
and like I said, this one right here, most people who know Mark Cuban is pretty straight up. So let me see if I can get this to play here. All the reasons in the world. I've read your book. You have the 10, all these keys to success, etc. What would you say is the number one reason why people fail? Not necessarily why they made it, the complete opposite. Right? Lack of brains, lack of effort. Lack of brains, lack of effort. Yeah, they don't do the work. They don't when you walk in the room, when you start a business and you start to talk about somebody, you're never in a vacuum with no competition. You know, unless you're just extremely lucky. And if there's going to be competition, that means somebody else knows your business as well as you do when you get started. And if you walk into a competitive environment and they still know more about the business than you do and more about your customers, you're going to lose. But most people don't consider that. They don't do the work. They don't learn more about their industry. They don't know even about their business. I mean, and so you've got to put in the effort to know more about your industry than anybody else. And that's the brains part, and that's the effort part as well. Because look, if you're competing with me, you better know what you're doing, otherwise I'm gonna kick your ass. And you're knocking out working. And so, the combination is usually what kills businesses early on when they.
mm.
So would y'all agree with that?
Yes, yeah, yeah. I mean, we live in a show me time where people look to be more interesting than they are interested. In
Mm.
order to serve your clients best, you got to be more interested in them than showing who you are. Like, I did some cool stuff, right? But I mean, that's what I did. How can I take what I did to help solve your issues today? Right? That's really what matters. So I totally agree. I totally agree.
Somebody said, "Say that again." Oh, say that again. All right. And Anthony, yes, that was my beat button. That was my bleep button right there. Yeah. So
There's some good comments too.
yeah, look at this joker here.
The beat. Don't just skip over that beat.
Goodson.
So yeah, and the reason why I wanted to show that is because I was like, whenever I heard that, I was like, you know what? How many people do research prior to? I would hope that whenever you're going into a business, you starting a business, that you are going to do your research. But we know it's a lot of people who just think that, you know what, my product is going to be better than everybody else's. So I don't care who my competition is. I'm just going to blow them out the water. And that's why, yet again, some people fail because there's no kind of way I can have three ice cream shops in the same location on the same block and think that I'm going to come in here and do something and be better than all of them just because I have this little specialty thing. Hey, you
But
won. Go ahead.
there's that meme that says there's 100 types of bread and they all sell out. You can't do
You can, but you know what? That last person who's selling that bread, apparently everybody else is sold out, and now you the last one. Hopefully your bread ain't got mold on it.
that. So it's I like that you talk about that because so I used to be a black belt. I'm a Six Sigma, right? And so I was doing some business consulting for a while. I used to sit on the board of the Black Business um, Chamber board of directors for a few years up in Virginia, and talking to business members there, and then talking to business members here. A lot of people don't research their competitors. They know what they do, but how can you establish a competitive edge if you don't know what other people are doing? Like, I'm not saying you got to follow suit, but you got to understand what's out there so you can understand your client. When you understand your client, you best know how to serve them. If there's 10 other people that do, like for real estate, right? There are 7,500 realtors here in my market. So, how do I stand out if I only just focus on me? Right? I got to learn what's good and what's bad about my competition so then that way I know how to best serve my clients. Because my problem solving is not going to be enough. Everybody's doing it. Everybody knows 15 different realtors. But if there isn't something that they're missing or something that they're not doing well enough, and I don't know about it, I'm losing some folks.
You know, I was listening to and Stephanie, she just gonna already know she gonna start laughing. But I was listening to TD Jakes today. Yeah, that's my boy. But
Yeah.
he mentioned one thing, and he said, "No, never go into a situation thinking this way. This will not be that." So if you bring in some old from another place and you trying to make it to something and you going into something new with it, why didn't you just not stay in the old place? Because it'll never work out. So if you're not bringing something new to the front, why are you gonna start?
Yeah,
And
just
so,
another business.
yeah. And so, I was thinking about that when he said it because I was like, you know what? And just like how we was talking about knowing your competition, if my competition is telling me this is what I'm all about, I mean, this is what they do, and I'm not, and I think hey, you know what? I got a little bit that I can bring over here. Yeah, it's still not gonna work out because that mindset, that the mindset that you brought over here is all in the past anyway. And,
Mm-hmm.
and I read this book. It was called, I can't even think of the book, but I'll think of it in a minute. But they start talking about businesses who don't evolve.
Mm.
And just like with entrepreneurship, if you never evolving with the time or with the people, guess what? You finna get and close down. Oh, bit. I'll think of it in a minute. It's coming to me, but yeah.
So I think that kind of leans back to what we were talking about earlier, right? Even if you don't want the business to sustain its doors of operations when you pass, what kind of vehicle can you create that still serves your family? Right. So, like when I was doing small business work, it was I knew why I went into business. Right. I went into business because I saw what happened with my family, and I had learned some skill sets that I didn't want people's businesses to fail on the operation side. I'm heavy in operations. That's like when you look at my resume and my job experience from what the military molded out of me, operations is my jam. I can't turn that part of my brain off. Um, but then it was like, okay, so once you make the money, because making the money sometimes can be the easy part, how do you put that money to work? Because you can never outwork a dollar. right? So when I started my second business, helping investors or helping business owners or helping family members take and put their money to work, it was for that very same reason, because you make the money and now what, right? Years ago, it was like, okay, so how do you keep it in operation? I remember talking to a woman once who said, I'm scared to die. So after chemo, I go back to work
Mm.
because the business cannot run if I'm not there. And it's like, man, that's got to be tough, you know. And as a business owner, what do you do? Do you shut down because life is pulling on you physically, or do you push forward? Like, that's an entrepreneur, right? Every bit of grit and grind. And she'd been in business for a very, very long time. Somebody I hold in a very high regard with a lot of respect. But it was helping folks like that that made me say, I got to do more.
And I think like with me, like, you know, in mental health, like I could have like just been a therapist, but I've expanded my business to include family law and mediation and like finding other ways to provide a professional service within that mental health realm, which I'm qualified to do. So, you know, just expanding ourselves. But I have to be like very transparent. Like, I think I'm a good provider, but I'm not necessarily the best business owner or entrepreneur, you know? So it's like I'm just here to like provide my service and I'm okay with that. But the business, the hustle, the
Underneath the skirt of business, the unsexy part of business, that we don't sign up for that part, right? We sign up to do the stuff we want to do. And then it's like, okay, what about everything else, right? So sometimes we, as entrepreneurs that want to be able to take a break sometimes, is
yeah.
we do the things that we love. For the skill sets that we don't have, we either learn how or we start to outsource them in increments, even if needed, just to make sure that we get to. I'm on this thing right now where I am living life by design as I
Mm.
choose to. Not because like they gave me my DD 214 stuff. That's your discharge papers. That's the thank you for your service. Have a nice day. And in my head, I said, as long as you run me my check, my checks
Uh-huh.
forever. Like you don't have any
Look,
problems out of
I'm
me.
working on it.
No problems out of me, right? But
Yeah.
it was okay. So now I just get to show up in the world and do good stuff.
Mm.
And what does that look like based on what it is that I want to do? So there's some stuff I don't have time to learn. I don't want to learn, right? So then I go out and I outsource and I pay somebody to do some of those things to take the heavy lifting off of me so I can just focus on doing what I love to do. I love helping people in real estate. I love doing development. Like those are I've got long-term goals that I'm walking into. I like helping people put their capital to work, right? So you can make money, but then what happens after that? You sit in the bank, right? So this life by design process of where we are right now. And did you go see Grace? Have you seen Grace lately? You need to go around the corner to go see Grace.
I'm not going to see Grace.
No, no, she said I might not be a good, right? Have you seen Grace lately? You
Mm-mm.
might, yeah, go see Grace. It's okay. It's okay. I mean, sometimes we pay for what we don't, but the thing is acknowledging it.
Yeah.
Sometimes people don't even acknowledge it because they don't want to, but you have to. You have to. You have to continuously do SWOT analysis of your business. I think we talked about that last time. I like talking about it, so I know it comes up with me a lot. But you constantly have to figure out, where am I at now? Where do I want to go? Where do I want to be 3 years from now? What's missing in my business? What are the broken processes? What can I resolve and fix? That's the only way you're going to grow. When you're done growing, you die. Anything that's not growing is dying, right? And so we got to treat our businesses the same way. What kind of tweaks? And then they don't always have to be big things, but we got to be aware and accountable to what we signed up for, not just the stuff to say, hey, I'm making money. Let me take these nice pictures in front of somebody else's car. Let
I
me
do it
look
all
at
the time.
you.
Hey, you know what? You brought up a good point, and I'm gonna give you another reason why businesses fail. Well, entrepreneurs fail because they don't want to admit, and just like how y'all brought up the point, they don't want to admit I don't know. They always go. People always go in there because Stephanie, I was with you. Whenever I started with this business thing and trying to understand the accounting portion of it and the pay and all this other stuff, website designs, I don't have a clue. So instead of me trying to figure stuff out, which it took me, I had to knock myself upside the head a few times, but it was like, go find somebody that's smarter than you to do this. People do this. And
Yeah,
sometimes I think we kind of forget that we need to invest in our own. We have to invest in our own businesses. And if you don't invest in it, you're gonna be that same person who gonna spend 24 hours, trying to put a website together. And then instead of putting this website together, it's looking a hot mess. And then you're gonna be mad at the product that you have when the only thing you had to do is spend a little money and then say, hey, you know what? Let me invest in this. But the fact that you too prideful or you don't have that humility to say, I don't know, it goes by the wayside for a lot of people.
I think it's also a challenge of not understanding time value.
Yes.
Mm.
I'll tell you what one of my mentors told me one time. She said, and I hope that this doesn't step on anybody's toes, but just follow the story. I was about to go do my daughter's hair, and she called. She said, "Hey, Andrella, what you got going on today?" And I said, "Oh, I'm about to do my daughter's hair." And she said, "Oh, okay, well that's cool." She said, "Because it's your daughter." She said, "But let me help you understand." She said, "How long does it take for you to do her hair?" I said, "3 hours." She said, "How much does it cost you?" I said, $45. She said, "Okay, so you're gonna do that today. That's cool. You get to bond, blah, 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 blah. But if that was not your daughter and you were gonna do something that paid you $15 an hour, would you be satisfied with the client paying you $15 an hour?" And of course, my answer was no, because I was charging my clients way more than $15 an hour. She said, "So in your business, as you start to do different things, understand your time value, because you can figure out a lot of stuff." She's like, "You're smart. Most solopreneurs have enough hustle, grit, grind. I'm going to go figure this out to go figure out a bunch of stuff. But at the end of the day, what did it cost you? Opportunity, lost opportunity and time. You got to learn how to add that up. And so missed opportunities because you're busy off doing something that you should have paid somebody else to do is
Mhm.
a real thing. It's a real thing. I pay somebody now to do a lot of my paperwork stuff for my real estate side, and I'm never gonna do that stuff again because she's good at it and it's seamless and it gives me the ability to go do the income generating things that I need to do for my business. It's probably about 15 hours worth of work. Okay, well, here's his check. If I can, here's a bonus. Most times she doesn't let me because we're like this, but like it frees up the time so I can do the things that matter to generate to go get the next person. So um as solopreneurs, that's a hard thing to learn sometimes, you know. We don't have to do it all. And it's okay to say, I don't know. Because most successful business owners are never never the sharpest in the room. They might be the most disciplined, the most a lot of things, but they're normally not the smartest in the room. Good business owners keep smart people around them.
Yes.
They keep smart people around them.
That's why I keep Stephanie around me.
Aw. We gonna talk. You know what I want to do, but this is a Christian show. But anywho, yeah, like before, like doing this whole entrepreneurship, and it was like it has taught me to do some basic math, addiction, and so addiction. What is it called? It's not addiction, Lord. It's the
Addition, just
Subtraction.
math, just math. Let's keep it
just
easy.
math.
Math. It's okay for us smart people to just talk simple. Math,
Math.
math,
And
math.
so yeah, I had a colleague was like, you don't have like a virtual assistant to take care of this, like, do you really have like a couple of like 2 hours in your day to be checking emails and doing your own billing and, consultations? And I'm like, but I don't, who do I trust? Like, I don't have nobody. And it's like, you're gonna have to let go of that. You're gonna have to outsource. And I was like, dang, that seems like that costs a lot of money. And my colleague was like, well, you charge this per hour, and that could be 10 to 15 hours that you pay somebody. And I was just like, wow, like I had to carry the one and like,
You're like,
you know, I was
not so.
and I was like, wow, I didn't even realize like that time management and like outsourcing and like that's really saving me money. So yeah, I'm like, this
Well,
is crazy.
well, one thing that some people don't want to do it is because of greed. Greed would have you just sitting up there trying to hold on to a lot of stuff, and it's just like, you know what? Why?
I don't want to pay somebody. I used to feel like I'm smart. I could do this. I can
Yeah.
manage this stuff. So why should I pay somebody to do it? And then one day one of my mentors was talking about time value, and I was like, hmm, time value. Okay, let me test out a couple people, see how this feels on me. Because for me, it wasn't a trust thing. For me, it wasn't about the money. It was about I can do this, so why should I pay somebody else to do it, right? But from the very first time, it was like, wow, I just bought my time back at a discounted rate to go out and do the income generating things. And it totally opened that, like you said, Stephanie, it opened my eyes to see things differently. For me, it wasn't a greed thing. It was in the moment at the time, I didn't understand my time value with regards to how I wanted my business to run.
And other times, you have that same feeling that nobody can do it better than me because and that's one of the things as far as especially with the business. If this business is my baby, do I really want to share my baby with somebody else because they don't understand what I have or what I can do? So you keep that kind of close to the chest too, and just be like, nah, I'm gonna hold on to it. So
And I don't think there's anything wrong really to be able to share your vision and purpose with someone and just kind of like have that conversation. Like, I'm trusting you to buy into my vision and, help me create.
So somebody the other day, I think you might have saw the post, but I was talking about dreaming bigger, right? And I believe in mentorship. I believe in paid mentorship. I have for a very long time. When I was in the military, it just kind of felt second nature. But even now that I'm outside the military, I do believe in mentorship and I pay people well for it, right? But one of the questions that was challenged to me, or the statement that was made was, in order for me to be successful and take my business, and this could be for anybody, in order for you to take your business to the next level, you have to create something so big that the people that you bring along, their goals and visions can be met within your umbrella.
Mm.
Because if not, you're asking somebody to give their goals up, give their time up, put their dreams on the back burner to support yours. So part of vetting people and figuring out who you can trust, who to bring along in your journey, you have to be able to create something so that they can create something viable themselves. Employees and business partners are like the first extension of the business.
Mm.
And a disgruntled or poor employee can cause your business to crumble fast. So you got to be intentional about who you allow just in your space. In the world we're talking about protecting your energy and your peace right now, real heavy. It's the same way in business.
even and you can even use that model right there just in relationships themselves. You know, if we start talking about people getting married and stuff, or you start dating. If I'm gonna give up being single, and your dream is very limited, and why am I finna get to do this? So
Exactly.
yeah.
Exactly. Exactly.
Well, my good people, we only have like 5 minutes to go. So
We got like 5 minutes. What y'all want to talk about? 5 minutes. We can talk about a lot in 5 minutes.
Well, I mean, I'm figuring to turn the floor over to you because I know you said you wanted to share some stuff. So,
Well, I've been talking a lot. What I'm supposed? It was something else I was supposed to share.
well, I thought
I
you
li-
said yeah,
I like to talk, right?
uh,
So
email or website
since
or whatever.
since we're talking about military folks, right? This is a video series for our military people. Um, you can be an entrepreneur. I didn't think like an entrepreneur when I was in the military, and nobody told me about the emotional stability of separating from the military and a stable life, right? So when
Mm.
I came out here, it felt like the wild, wild west, and it still does, right? Because everybody doesn't have morals and ethics. There's no code of conduct. There's nobody to call when people doing foolishness and saying they're gonna do something, and there's nobody to hold them accountable other than themselves. So it's a different world out here. So I used to encourage, and I do now. Um, Figure out who you are, not what you do, but who you are, as early as you can. So in that way, when you walk out of the military, you don't feel like you have to show up for the world the way the world needs you to. You're able to start creating your life by design the way you want to while you're in on Uncle Sam's time and dime, right? Because sometimes we're working in job places where we do have a little bit of extra time, but at least you have this the safety net of a check that comes no matter what. Because out here in this entrepreneur space, there is nothing that says a check is going to come because people like you. Because I got bomb pictures. I may not look like it today, but if you check my social media, my images are fire, right? But
Yes.
that doesn't mean people going to spend their money just because, right? So that sense of entrepreneurship, you really have to find out what's going to set you on fire. And it starts with understanding who you are in here, what matters to you, and what it is that you want to do. So you just get to show up in the world the way you want to, not the way you have to, because life is
Mm.
demanded.
That's a word right there.
Yeah. So I don't know about South, I don't know. Viewers are probably from all over the place, but I do business in South Carolina, right? So I am a real estate agent in Charleston, South Carolina. I'm licensed in the state, regardless of what state you're in. I like to see our veterans win. I got a real soft spot for veterans. I gave 20 years of my life to that, and I keep in touch with a lot of people nowadays. So if anybody ever needs a realtor or just has questions, they can reach me. My name is Andrella Pusha in real life and on social media, right? I'm not a fan of social media, but I show up as just me on social media. And you say that it's a skill set. I learned it. I don't like it because I don't like the bad stuff that people do with it. So I had to learn how to do what's best for my business and still be right for me. So I don't spend hours on social media. I get on there consistently to feed the people, because a friend of mine, she told me once, she said, if you don't show up and serve the people that need to hear you, somebody else is going to, and they might not care. And ever since then, it was like, okay, this is just a skill set. I don't have to do it because I like it. I'm not a fan, but I'm good at it, right? Because I learned to do so, right? And then the other piece of my second business, right? I help people to put their capital to work. It's one thing to make a dollar, but if your dollar is just sitting inside the bank, you're losing money because inflation is a very real thing, right? So I work with investors to create income on a continual basis. It's very, very safe. So, um, social media, Andrella Pusha, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, Calendly, all my contact information is on there. But um, it's real out here in these entrepreneur streets, right? So having a tribe of people that you can talk to, even if it's just somebody to talk to from time to time, um, matters. So thank you for inviting me on the show, because these are very real things that we talked about that sometimes people don't see, because a lot of people just show the glitz and glamour. I remember selling my first year, I got licensed in June, right? So like the first year I might have did like 400,000, something like that. and I buckled down and I was like, this is not it. And everything entrepreneurial engineering kicked in. And for last year, I sold more than 5 million in sales.
Wow.
But I had to analyze what was going right, what was going wrong, and try to go back. I had to look at my competition to see what people were doing and what not, what was not going on, figure out what my competitive edge is, remind myself as to why I even came here in the first place, right? And we have to do those things over and over again. Just because the days get long, that doesn't mean that you don't stop growing. Because again, when you stop growing, you die. Did you
It's
say somebody
heavy.
passed away? Somebody
It's
passed
just,
away?
oh no, I'm just no, I gotta get it together. Okay. I gotta reevaluate and put
But
some things to work and put it in purpose, and because the sister is tired, but I think it's just because some things need to be tweaked. So yeah.
What we are always looking for, what we're looking for is always looking for us. So the feeling that you have right now only makes sense if those are the things that I'm talking about. When you are walking in your purpose, it's only right that the things that come around you, they all serve you. They all serve you. They might not feel good, but they always serve you. Sometimes it's a light bulb. It's like, man, I need to do this. Sometimes it feels like a punch to the gut. It's like, man, I'm messing up. But either way it goes, it all serves you, right? So sometimes it's okay to go seek grace.
Yeah, I don't went to church 2 times today, so
Well, thank you guys for having me. I'll
thank you.
when we're done, I'll put my contact information inside the comment so people that watch it on the replay, because I know I'm a replay watcher sometimes, they can have my contact information and reach out if they have any questions or concerns.
got you. Thank you, Stephanie. What you got?
Oh, let me get my little book here. Okay. It says, they say if you believe the world is throbbing with wonder, then it is. They say in old stories that you can't discover new lands without losing sight of the shore for a long time. I say if you believe in the wonder, you'll find your shore. That's Lori Go.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
So what you got, Maranthony? Andrella, what y'all gonna add
Okay.
to that?
I'll say, so mine is a Denzel, it's a reel I saw, right? I don't like social media, but I learned from it.
Mm-hmm.
It said dreams without goals are just dreams, and ultimately they fuel disappointment. On the road to achieving your dreams, you must apply discipline, but more importantly, consistency. Without commitment, you'll never start, and without consistency, you'll never finish.
Mm.
Okay. Well, y'all,
Don't
hey,
do
y'all came hard.
that.
What did you
What you
expect
got?
us to do?
What you got?
This little book right here. It
I
says,
bet.
How good do we have to be? That's the name
How
of the
good
book.
is it? Oh,
How, yeah, how good do we have to be?
How
And
good? Okay.
yes, but that wasn't my quote. It was just the book I had laying right here. So my quote, my thing is, when your imagination does not match your reality, you often find yourself depressed because you feel like you're missing out on the life that you are meant to live.
Mm,
And whenever I have, and I was just like you, Steph, and I'm quite sure Andrella, same way. You know, you're sitting up here trying to think, why am I doing this? Why am I doing this? And if I and like we was talking about going back to the corporate world, if I go back to the corporate world, I know I have a safety net. But at the same time, I have to realize why I am doing this. And whenever I take myself out of it and say it's not really about me, and I'm really trying to help somebody else pursue a dream or a goal or something like that, that's whenever I come back to my realization and be like, that's why I'm doing this. So
yeah.
whenever I finally find what my purpose is, that's whenever I feel like I'm more enlightened to go out there and run the business like it's supposed to be ran.
Right. Got to revisit that why. Got to revisit the why. When times get hard, your why will show you how.
Mm.
It'll always show you how.
And that's why I put that little comment up there earlier. Are you angry enough? Are you angry enough to win? So a person will not do anything until they get angry enough, and once they get angry enough, they gonna go out and make it something happen. But I mean, that's with relationships, that's with business, that's whatever, anything you do. That's the only time people gonna fight. How many times have you seen that somebody fight and they just was not angry? They got their butt whooped.
Yeah. They say you
So
got to get mad. You got to get
yeah,
mad. You got to make a decision. I'm tired of being tired. You got to make a decision. And when you get tired of being tired, that's when it's like, okay, enough is enough. I got to change.
so
Wasn't that R. Kelly when a woman's fed up?
Yeah.
I'm glad you mentioned the song and you just didn't leave it right there. Thank
I know.
you. Where is she
I
finna
was
go with
like,
this? Where is she finna go with this? Yeah, it's been a pleasure. It's been fun. But like I said, we are over our time. For the viewers, thank you for watching. Please share it. Even if, Andrella said, if you even watching the replay, she's gonna put her contact information in there in the comments. So please hit her up if you need anything from her. Uh, Even if it's just to talk. I mean, that's why she's a returning guest. You know, we found more information out from her, and I'm quite sure we're gonna have her back on here because she's gonna share some more of her things that's upcoming with her. So thank y'all very much, and hey, much success to everybody in their entrepreneurship ventures. And
absolutely.
we out of here.